Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson, and I've asked Paul Walker. He's the chairman of Far East Gold. The ASX code is FEG. Now, Paul and I have spoken in the past, focused a lot of the time on their project up in Indonesia called Woyla. We'll talk about that today. But one of the reasons I've asked Paul to come back today is because I think that some of their other projects that we haven't focused on are equally as important. And I'll ask Paul what his view is, but I think he'd probably agree with me. Here in Queensland, some very exciting projects. And I think our community needs to understand the big picture and not just focus on Woyla, even though Woyla is going to be a very exciting project. So we'll start with Woyla, but we will go on to some of their other projects. That's the focus of today. Wanted to let you know. Paul, welcome back. Good to see you. Thanks for joining me back on Small Caps.
Hey, Kerry, thanks so much for having me back.
Look, I did say to our community that I'd talk to you before Christmas. Can't believe it. It's already just almost December. So, Paul, let's just briefly talk about Woyla up in Indonesia. Just a brief update. If there's anything material that's happening up there, but then I want to focus on some of the other projects.
Yeah, no, thanks, Kerry. It's obviously a lot of our attention has been on Woyla. Yeah, we see it as probably the best near-term opportunity for value uplift for our shareholders and investors. We've had a lot of success. We started 2 drilling programs in 2 different prospect areas in Woyla. The Nakparak prospect was a bigger program, about 18 holes, and we're currently on our 18th hole in that phase 1 program. So we're almost finished the drilling there. And the other prospect area, which was we were actually really lucky to get in there. We weren't expecting to be able to get in there so soon. The artisanal miners that were working in that area have moved away from it, and so it freed it up for us to come and drill. And so we had a initial 5-hole first phase program in Rekrinti, and we're currently on our 5th hole. And we just announced within one of the holes in Rekrinti, which is again one of the reasons why we're excited about being able to get in there. We announced that we saw visible gold in some of the diamond drill core samples from one of the holes. We were using our handheld XRF spectrometer machine, and we could see the potential for high-grade gold in the samples where we saw the visible gold, but also what's encouraging potential for the very high-grade silver there as well, and interesting Z-link characteristics. So interesting polymetallic nature of this core sample based upon what we're seeing with our handheld spectrometer. So it's early days. Can't wait to get the assays back for it, but really encouraged with where Woyla's at, encouraged about how it's going forward.
When are the assays going to be back, Paul? That's what people are probably going.
Yeah, of course.
Give me the assays.
Yeah, no, imminent. So our geos are really, no. So obviously we're quite large scale phase program, 18 holes on Nakparak and 5 on Rekrinti. Really different characteristics across the holes. So geos said, get them all back, get all the finalized assays, don't go out preliminary, and then release them to the market. So it's imminent, given that we're basically drilling our last holes right now. And we've been, cutting the cores and logging it and shipping them as we go. So very soon.
All right, maybe I should have held this this conversation in a week or two, but bad luck. We're doing it today. But exciting times up there. I just want to find out one thing. You mentioned a moment ago that you got access to an area sooner than you thought. Where is that? Why is that important? Has that changed anything?
Yeah, so we're across the Woyla project, which is situated up in Sumatra. It's one of our 3 Indonesian projects, and we have the 3 in Queensland. The epithermal systems that we have run across 4 camps of epithermal veins, and we've defined and mapped 13 kilometres of epithermal vein structure across 4 areas. The one that we were drilling initially is a 4.7 kilometre vein, basically like a long, thin quartz highway. The next area is about sort of 200 meters lower in elevation, and the early stage exploration suggests that we might be close to the boiling zone in that area. So there was quite large exposed quartz vein systems, like 10, 15 meter wide quartz veins exposed that ground running for 250 odd meters. So we were really keen to get in there and have a look at what we could see. The assays from rock samples were showing, bonanza grade gold, high grade silver, really good hallmarks of something interesting in this Rekrinti prospect. But given that it was being worked by artisanal miners and the Nakparak area wasn't, we thought we'd focus on that. And then when we're in a position to transition into a mine, we'd look at moving the artisanal miners into a different industry, such as helping us on the mine. but they were moved away a few months ago, and it opened us up for drilling, which we weren't expecting to be able to drill. So we've gone and done geophysics works in there, done a full 9-line geophysics program. I think that's sort of 17 kilometres of geophysics work. Really clear on where we want to target in terms of drilling, but the structure is very, very different from the other Nut Prack prospect. If a Nut Prack's a highway, this is like a lot of little back streets, and so it's like lots of very different textures, and really encouraged that we've seen visible gold in one of the holes that it's coming out there. So it gives us a lot of confidence that what we're seeing in terms of the amazing early stage exploration results is now coming through in some of the diamond core.
You said a word a moment ago which pricked my interest, which was you said a mine. Are you looking at developing this in the near term into a mine?
So we have a contract of work tenure in for Woyla, and that gives us 30 years to operate a mine that we can extend to 2 10-year periods, so 50 years. But at the moment we're in the exploration window, which goes for 2 years. So we have till August 2024 to finish an Indonesian feasibility study. We'll also aim to do our JORC resource, a maiden JORC resource estimate next year. When we do that, those two things, we then transition our ownership up to 80%, but then we transition into development and operation. So we basically want to get everything ready in the next 2 years in terms of environmental approvals, feasibility studies, the economic modelling for this project to transition into the development and operation phase of the license. So yes, near term. If you say within 2 years, to
That's
know
near term.
Yes, yeah.
Just remind our listeners as well why you're so confident, because there are people out there that say, "Oh, Indonesia could be tricky." Why are you so confident that Far East Gold are not only in the sweet spot but have got good partnerships, and the jurisdiction-wise, this is a sensible place to be?
Well, there's a raft of reasons, Kerry. Like one of the reasons why we love Woyla is it had previously been explored by Barrick and then Newcrest. A lot of great early work done that showed how remarkably prospective this tenement is, but they couldn't progress it to drilling. We were able to, when we took over the project about 2 or so years ago, apply our knowledge and understanding of working in Indonesia, like across our board. More than half of the board speak Indonesian. I think 3 of the board live up in that part of the world. So we have a long-standing 30 plus years individually across members of the board in that area. And in 2020, the Indonesian government changed a lot of the rules about mining and actually simplified things. They put an omnibus set of laws in which brought all the rules back to the central government rather than having to go through local and provincial and central to get. So we'd like to say we're really smart and know how to do things better than other people, but I think it's a bit of a combination of know how to work in the jurisdiction, but also the jurisdictions actually tried to make it easier for people to work in. Indonesia is forecast to be the 7th largest economy in the world by 2030.
Oh wow!
And the 4th largest economy in the world by 2035. You cannot become the 4th largest economy in the world without having all those macroeconomical, structural, systemic elements of an economy working properly. And so Indonesia is really transitioning fast from a developing country to a developed country. And having 30 plus years experience in Indonesia, some members board, myself about 15, puts us in a really special position to take advantage of the opportunities. And there are so many opportunities up there.
All righty. Well, I did say that we were going to focus on some other things as well today, but I just wanted to make sure that, Indonesia, you're comfortable up there. Interesting that the government changed some of the legislation in 2020, which is not that long ago. And really, just to remind people, Far East Gold only listed March, wasn't it, of this year?
Yes.
So they've hit the ground running, ladies and gentlemen, and they're not stopping. But today I also want to focus on Mount Clark West, which I think is a really interesting project that perhaps people haven't yet clocked what you're doing there. So let's, if you wouldn't mind, come back down to Australia, to, I guess, central Queensland, isn't it? And
yes.
Talk to us about what you've done there. and why, Paul, as chairman, you feel that Mount Clark West people need to be aware of what you're doing.
Thanks. The projects we have in Queensland, we have two are situated in Drummond Basin, but Mount Clark West is probably our most exciting project. We announced about 3 or so weeks ago a JORC exploration target. What we're seeing in Mount Clark West is the potential for a bulk tonnage, relatively low grade, but such large tonnage copper porphyry deposit that it will justify further exploration to prove up the hypothesis. Now, we have a lot of work that's been done to bring us to the point where we announced a maiden JORC exploration target on Mount Clark West. The amount that we're targeting is a bulk tonnage range of 400 million tonnes at 0.4% copper equivalent through to 650 million tonnes at 0.6% copper equivalent. And if you do the numbers backwards, in terms of turning that into pounds, you're talking multi-billions of pounds of copper that we're targeting in terms of the possibility of a resource in that tenement. So it's remarkable in terms of its scale and size.
Does bulk tonnage work? I mean, it sounds, and for those that don't know, 0.4% sounds quite low grade. Talk to us around the economics, and of course, more importantly,
so good. Yeah, so good. So one of the reasons why we landed on that exploration target is we looked at what we saw in terms of the geochem, the detailed mag work we've done, ground magnetic work, the IP work, the drilling, and then we did some deep ground penetrating geophysics that went down to 700 meters plus, called a MIMDAS geophysics survey. We looked at all that, and then we looked for analogs in terms of where do other porphyry systems exist that have similar sorts of characteristics. And we are situated in the Connors Arc, but it's also part of the New England Basin. So if you travel New England Basin, goes all the way down to New South Wales. There's 2 projects, one called Cadia and the other called North Parks. Yes.
Huge, ladies and gentlemen, massive.
Yes, and so we see lots of textural and structural similarities in terms of possibly we either have 3 cylindrical porphyry systems, like 3 fingers of some porphyry plugs, or alternatively, it's one large system. We don't know that until we've done drilling. But if you look at Cadia and North Parks, North Parks is I think it's sort of 450 million tonnes at about 0.6% copper, and Cadia is 1 billion plus tonnes at 0.4% copper. So you have very large scale, very important copper projects. I think Cadia, is the second largest copper project in Australia, at relatively low grades when you have such large porphyry deposits to work through. So that's what we're looking to try and work up. Once we get access to drill on the 2 farms where the tenement crosses, once we get access to drill on that, we'll start with a scout program using RC drilling, just to get an understanding that are we correct? Is the mineralization, the copper molybdenum, is there any gold, any note there? And if we are comfortable with that, then we look to a resource delineation program using diamond drills after that.
How do you know, you mentioned 400 million at 0.4%. How do you get to those numbers?
Those sorts of numbers? It's actually, yeah, you'd like to think it's a dark art, but it's not quite so dark. You look at what you're seeing in terms of the response from the geophysics, and you can see certain chargeability and resistivity characteristics. You look at the magnetic signatures from the ground mag, and you go, well, that looks like the outer limits of a system. And then you start looking at the length of it. And so the system we're looking at is like 1.5 kilometers long, sort of 800 meters wide, 700 meters deep, starting about 200 meters. Now, what we don't know whether or not is it 3 little fingers, or is it one large plug? And we can't tell that because of some of the geochem work at the ground is distorted because of an alluvial flow through the middle of it. Now, it could be that we're getting a distorted reading. It's a much bigger system, or it could be it's just 3 cylinders around the edge, and there's actually nothing really in the middle. Right. So you read what you can interpret from all the work that the geos have done before, and then go, okay, if it's this big by that wide by this deep, that's how many tons at this grade. That's what we're targeting.
What's the worst case scenario that you don't find what you think is there? Like how?
Yes, that is the worst case. That the uh, there is mineralization porphyry, but it's not of the scale and it's not in the areas that you need. So that's you start going, you start vectoring wide and then you start coming in and going, okay, well, it's not of that scale. That's the worst case scenario. I mean, from our perspective, there's been enough work done and from us and from the previous exploration over the years to announce a target of that scale. You know, I thought it was of such a significant size, it needed to be announced so people could see what's going there. Because it's not often that you have the potential to chase an exploration target of that scale for copper, certainly in central Queensland, which is a relatively straightforward place to build a mine of that scale. 20 kilometres by road to a mining services town, which has accommodation for 1,000 workers. So it's you got all the power, water, rail running past the front door. It's if you were to build a mine of that scale for copper porphyry, you'd want to be building it somewhere like that.
Oh wow! So in terms that's actually quite good to know. I mean, you'd have to build your own plant, etc. I'm assuming, but what you're saying is we don't need to. The infrastructure for power, water, etc. is already there. So that actually makes it a really good area to be in.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
What about these farmers that you say that you've got to get married to, so to speak? Are they positive, negative? Because that can be a bit challenging.
Of course, completely. So before we can drill on their farms, we need either reach an agreement with them or we get a determination on how much compensation they get paid by the land court. So we have the right to go under and drill, but it's either hopefully a fast process by agreement or a slower process by determination. But either way, we'll get there. The relationship we've had with the farmers has been really good so far. We were able to go on and do geochem work and that deep ground penetrating survey, the MIMDAS survey work across their farm in agreement with them. We sat down at the kitchen tables and asked them if we could come on, and they let us come on to do that work. So our relationship so far has been quite positive. Hopefully it continues that way when we negotiate the conduct and compensation agreement. Fingers crossed. But the other side, either way, there's a fallback of getting determination. We were able to negotiate an agreement like that for our other Queensland project, Hill 212, back in July. So we do have some experience in negotiating these agreements with landholders. Hopefully we go the easy path, not the slower path through determination.
Paul, just take Tim Tams to the kitchen table. That always helps. Tim Tams or scones.
Yes, or a nice bottle of Bundy. It is central Queensland.
It's Queensland. It's Bundy all the way. All right, we'll take the Bundy. You'll be fine. All right, so with that Mount Clark West, as we're coming into the end of 2022, what you've still got to do that sort of negotiation?
Yeah, so it's a relatively low cost but high value exercise for us. Yeah, the previous drilling that had been done there was done from the road corridor because they didn't. They were running out of time in their farming agreement, the previous explorers, and they wanted to get some drilling done, but they couldn't get onto the farm. We see the value of actually going on and getting that agreement or getting the determination so we can drill exactly where we want to drill. So the drilling did clip what we think is the edge of the porphyry shell because of the 104 meters at like 0.1% copper and good molybdenum in there. So we just we'll take our time, get it right. Which once we do have it right, then we're freed up to actually go see whether or not there's good copper and molybdenum and gold across the tenement. So it's a relatively low cost but high value exercise. Probably within the next sort of 6 or so months that we can actually look to try and have access rights to drill, and then we'll look to go forward with a relatively simple RC program to prove up the hypothesis.
Paul, talk to us, if you will, about what you see are the key milestones as we go forward. As I said before, you and I have spoken a lot about Woyla. There are 6 projects. There's 3 in Indonesia and 3 in Australia. For going into 2023, where do you? Because people will be looking, saying, "Well, I want to see where the uplift is. I want to see where the
of course, So like I'll finish off with the Australian ones. Obviously, near term is getting the rights to drill in the areas that have never been drilled before in Mount Clark West, and then we have that ability to do a simple RC drill program to prove up the the theory about the mineralization. In terms of our other two projects, Hill 212 and Bluegrass Creek, we finished a drill program there. Our next steps are to go and do further mapping of the structure. There's about 7.5 kilometers of host structure that hasn't been mapped. We want to do further mapping, and then define some more drill targets. We're really upbeat about the prospectivity of Hill 212 and Bluegrass Creek as one project. Our next door neighbours, GBM Resources, about a month ago, they announced the farming agreement with Newcrest. Newcrest,
right.
Yes, Newcrest have agreed to spend $25 million to earn 75% of the Mount Coolum project, which we directly adjoin in Hill 212 and Bluegrass Creek.
That's interesting.
So, yes, so our backdoor neighbour is now going to be Newcrest doing exploration in our backyard. So very happy that a major is seeing the prospectivity of the Drummond Basin right near us. So really, really upbeat about that. In terms of our 3 Indonesian projects, Woyla, our plan is to have a maiden JORC resource estimate for that next year.
First half or second half?
Hope is before the end of the first half.
Okay. Yep.
In terms of the other project, Trenggalek, we have some remarkable porphyry targets that have never been drilled. To enable us to drill on that requires a borrow use license, which is like what we got in Woyla. So we know how to get a borrow use license from the government.
What's it called? What's it called? A borrow use?
Yeah, borrow use permits. It's actually called the Pinjam Pakai, which means literally to borrow and use. Okay. So it's state-owned land, and you basically ask for the right to use it for exploration. And there's a process you go through, and then they charge you a fee for how many hectares you use. So it's not complicated, but it's a process.
Right.
And you can't do the drilling unless you have it. Once we have that, we're also in the process of getting the ownership of Trenggalek transferred to us. So we have the right to 100% economic interest in Trenggalek. We won't do any drilling until we actually have our ownership legally in our hands. We run the project at the moment. We are doing all of the pre-work, and we've controlled it for the last 2 years, but we won't actually put money in the ground until we have legal ownership. So that's going to be a near-term milestone, getting the ownership of Trenggalek and then getting the right to drill the porphyries for the first time. And then in Wonogiri, our focus is transitioning a current exploration license to a mining license, an operation and production license. So that project it's got 1 million ounce JORC resource for gold and 190 million pounds for copper. We're currently reviewing a scoping study that we have a draft of, which tells us about the economics of developing a mine. We're in the process of working up a feasibility study for that. So next year we'll have, the plan is to have that transition from exploration permit to mining license with scoping study done, feasibility study done, and then a roadmap for transitioning to development and operating. So that's a near-term mine.
Yes, and so I'm going to hone in on that because we're running out of time. But Wonogiri, do you think that one potentially is the one that can start the cash flow coming into the bit? I know It's early, but is Wonogiri the little cash flow business?
And what we're seeing is it's a nice, relatively low capex mine that has a good, life of mine, which for a company like ours is a great way of transitioning from being an explorer with a big portfolio of projects to being a developer who's now able to progress those projects from exploration to operation. And Wonogiri is the stepping stone for us, so I see it. It certainly gives us lots of options.
What's your time frame with Wonogiri? If all went according to plan and, no hiccups along the way?
Yeah, no hiccups along the way. We'd be talking about how we're developing a mine towards the second half of next year, as in like we're looking at, that's when we start building. So lots of hurdles to get over between now and then in terms of permits and studies and funding and all those sorts of things. But yes, that's a sunny day view of the world. Towards the end of next year, talking about developing a mine. Well,
right now, I know. Look, it's out. You did a placement recently. You've got an SPP right now. I think the SPP is at 50 cents and the share price is at 50 cents. I think people are going, we're just going to wait for that to finish up, which will be soon. And this is not financial advice, ladies and gentlemen, but my goodness me, It's a tight share structure. They only listed in March this year. Please do your own research. But I know for a fact that Paul and his team, they know Indonesia. They also know their projects in Queensland. And they're not sitting back and having a Christmas break because there's a lot of work to do. They're not sitting on their laurels. But as I say, this is copper, gold, but also potentially zinc and lead. But they're looking at it in a very structured way and making sure that they get a good foundation before they go in. But I think it's important to note that Wonogiri project is the one that can potentially get into development and then into a mine. Of course, what a mine bring? Cash flow. And Wonogiri, 1 million ounces of gold. Happy days. Paul, I'm going to leave you to say the last word. 3 reasons why you think now is a great time for people to be looking at ASX code FEG, Far East Gold.
We've been going for 6 months since we listed. We've shown that we can deliver what we say we can deliver. Indonesia is a wealth of opportunities. We've got a team who knows how to take advantage of it. And we have so much upside left on the table. We have 6 projects which are, they're yet to get their day in the sun. And there is so much more to run on these projects.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Walker, chairman of Far East Gold, telling you there's 6 projects and they're only just getting started. And they are, because they only listed in March. Really love chatting to you, Paul. Merry Christmas. We will see you in the new year. But as he said, ladies and gentlemen, there are assay results are imminent. So watch this space. Make sure you check out the website and subscribe to updates, and then you'll know when those assay results come out and what the results are. Paul Walker, thanks so much for joining me on Small Caps today.
Thanks, Kerry.